Hi everybody, this is Ibarionex from the Candid Frame. Last time I talked about the importance of staying aware of setting, about taking a look at the overall scene and really considering it very carefully when you're building a composition. And in other videos I've also talked about the importance of gesture, that little flourish that can help complete a shot. So today I want to combine those two topics in my selection of 3 images and to relate why in and of themselves, gesture and awareness of space should be considered as 2 completely separate things that, in combination with each other, they increase the likelihood of being able to produce a really exceptional photograph. All right, here we have a shot by Sergey R. No XF information on this shot. Now, the key gesture, of course, is this boy who's being spun around in this fountain. His hand and his foot are being held by an adult on the left-hand side of the frame. He's spinning around, and you can see his expression between his legs, and he's got his hand onto his face, and he's obviously laughing and having a wonderful time. And his body creates this wonderful triangle, this V pattern here, and the contrast between the darkness of his pants, the darkness of the fellow here, the fact that he's not completely silhouetted, but he's darker than the rest of the frame, helps to bring the eye directly to him. We're also dealing with a very narrow depth of field, with the focus being spot on him, and it's just a wonderful moment, and it's really a gesture that makes the shot so strong. But take a look at everything else that's happening in the frame. You have these, these shot shafts of water. They're being propelled from the ground up into the air. We have a couple here who are embracing on the ground. You have the people in the distance that are walking back and forth. So you have this wonderful gesture here by this boy, but you also have all this other stuff that's happening in the frame, which is just as interesting and helps to complement this gesture here without being a distraction. This couple here that are hugging or wrestling on the ground serves as just a wonderful counterpoint to this, because this is so much fun, love, joy that's happening, and that sensibility is reflected here. You have people in the background that are just walking past, but having this to serve as a counterpoint to that is just wonderful, because it's expressing the same emotion, even though they're 2 different groups of people and their bodies are displayed in completely different ways. The sensitivity of the moment is exhibited in these two figures, and you have this wonderful triangle shape that I just mentioned here, but you also have that exhibited here with these people here who are hugging on the ground. The tonality of this image in terms of light to dark is also a big factor here. You have these people here in the background whose bodies you can see outlined, and it really helps that they're all wearing fairly light clothing. I think part of this is helped by the black and white rendering of the shot. Had this been a color shot, the colors of the clothes of the different people in the background may have been an issue, but by converting it to black and white, it just becomes gradations of gray, black, white, and everything in between, and it works really nicely. But think about shots where you have a wonderful gesture like this, but then you have a background that just doesn't support it. It's distracting, or there's something that's competing for the viewer's attention. This shot definitely doesn't suffer from that problem, and it's a great moment as a result. Okay, here we have a shot by Ralph Schwarten. This was created with a Fujifilm X Pro 2 1,000th of a second, f5.6, ISO 200. So the gesture here is this fellow who's leaping into the water. He is outlined by the sky and the clouds, but his shape is clearly defined because of the light that's coming from the right-hand side of the frame, a late afternoon sun, it appears. So we get this shape of his arms, his legs, his body against the blue of the sky and the clouds. So the gesture is really dramatic, and it's really clear. And because of the contrast between light and dark, the color, the gesture of the body, your eyes just gravitate to this part of the frame. And that's the action, that's the gesture that we're often talking about in the shot. But take a look at what's happening at the rest of the frame. The rest of the frame is relatively static. We have these people here, this man at the far left edge of the frame who looks like he's about to, take a dive himself. We have this young man over here. We have this woman with a hat on, all looking in this direction. Now, the gesture here, the action, is really great. But think about so many action shots that we see where the action is photographed with no consideration to what's happening with the rest of the setting. And I think that an action shot is often best captured when you have static elements within the frame. Elements that are not as dynamic, that are not as active, but serve as a counterpoint to the action. I think the action, the drama of the action, of the gesture, is made all the more pronounced by having more static elements in the frame. And I think that's exhibited by the three figures that are here in the frame, the railing, this post with this nice little bit of yellow that is being saturated as a result of the late afternoon light. I think the first impulse when you see a scene like this is, oh, I want to capture a shot of this guy jumping off the pier. That's going to make a great shot. And you could make a shot where it would just be the guy jumping off the pier and not include any of these other elements. And I think that's the shot that I think most people make, is they make the shot of the action, but they don't consider the setting. And I think that Ralph does a really good job here in terms of thinking about what else can I include in the frame. And there are some issues, of course, with the composition because this guy's foot is caught off in the frame. There's not much breathing room here, but that could be a result of just the limited mobility that he had in terms of where he was shooting from. I don't know if he was in the water or in a boat. I don't know if he could have pulled further back in order to get a little more breathing room for the space here. I wasn't there, so I'm not really sure. But that being said, it's the consideration of everything else in the frame that really helps to create the feeling for this shot. And that's what I want to impress on you when you're thinking about capturing gesture, capturing action, to think about what else can you include in the frame that will help make that action, that gesture, that much more pronounced. And it can be a difficult challenge because, you know, actions can sometimes be unpredictable, but this looks to be a scene where it was being repeated, that they were taking several dives into the water. So it allows you the flexibility of being able to really analyze the scene and figure out exactly where you want to be and how you want to compose the shot. The previous shot with the kid being spun around in the water, there is some of that happening there. You couldn't exactly predict where he would be in relative to the spinning, but the overall scene in terms of the couple that was on the ground, the other people in the frame, is something you could take into consideration. And then it's just a matter of timing and luck coming together in order to complete the shot. Next, we have a shot by Bill Boyce. This was created with a Panasonic GM1 at 1/25th of a second, 5.6 ISO 250. Now, this is a really interesting shot because it's very busy. There's a lot of activity happening in this shot. But the key gesture for me is this woman here with the camera raised high above her head taking a selfie. And you have other people here. You know, this woman putting on sunglasses, this woman looking into her phone, this woman taking a drink, this woman with her child moving into the frame, this guy with a beard, this woman with a pineapple drink here. So there are a lot of different people doing different things, but this gesture here is really what just draws my eye immediately. I think there's something about just the body language, the way her arm just leaps up into the frame, and those yellow nails are amazing, and her expression and all that. Considering all the busyness that's happening here, it's amazing how your eye just goes here, largely because of that gesture. You have some wonderful gesture here. The woman right behind her in the red top is a wonderful gesture. This gesture is great. This gesture is great. But, you know, all those different gestures, it's this one that really serves as the anchor of the image, right? But the shot is what it is because of everything else that's playing off in this frame. It's a difficult frame to pull off, I will tell you, because I have made shots like this, and it's so easy for it to sort of fall apart. But I like how this woman is moving into the frame, leading us here. This post here, this light post here, helps to cut off part of the frame and keeps it in the context. We have this woman here that's looking off to the right of the frame, but thankfully the light post is here, and it doesn't lead us away from the frame. And the eye lines for a lot of the other people seem to be directed towards the center area of the frame, and it just makes for a marvelous, marvelous moment. There's some people here who are partially obscured, like this guy with the hat here, this guy with the hat here. There's another woman here. There's another woman here. So we're not getting clean reads of every person that's in the frame, but you have just enough of the key people to really make for a marvelous, marvelous shot. If I have any quibble with the shot, is like this woman in the white shirt. I just wish she wasn't there. I hate white t-shirts. I feel like they just pull your eye away from more interesting elements in a photograph. But white t-shirts abound in the world, and sometimes you can't you can't get rid of them. But nevertheless, it doesn't ruin the shot for me, largely because the gesture of her holding her phone leads us here. And it's pretty circular in terms of the flow of the gestures and the lines that exist throughout the frame. You always keep coming back here, even though this white is a little bit of a draw. This moment here helps keep us rooted in the most important element in the frame. And when you see a moment like this, it's so easy to get so focused on this that you're not considering everything else in the frame. And I'm glad that Bill had the foresight to make a shot and make it what it is, which I think is really, really remarkable. I really love this shot because it's so difficult to pull off because of all the various elements that I just described. But he did it beautifully. So I commend you on this photograph. All right, I hope you found that helpful. If you want to find out more about the Candid Frame, go to thecandidframe.com, and there you'll find our podcast, which features conversations with photographers of every genre, not just street photography, but fashion photographers, landscape photographers, you name it, they're there. We have over 400 interviews, and you can take a listen via the website, or you can download the Candid Frame app, which is available for both Android and Apple iOS. And you can download over 400 interviews at your convenience and discover other people who love photography as much as you do and are leading really interesting and creative lives. And if you want to contribute to the Candid Frame Flickr Pool, all you have to do is go to Flickr, do a search on the Candid Frame on your computer, ask to be added, and I'll be glad to do that. If you're trying to add yourself to the group via your tablet or your phone, you're not going to succeed for whatever reason. You have to do it on your computer. And if you like what you're seeing here and you want to see more, please subscribe. And if you like this video, give us a thumbs up. So thanks again, and I'll see you next time.